I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 24th episode of Tales from Godric's Hollow, the world's #1 Harry Potter podcast, according to me, the muggle of the show, Josh Brown. I am joined, as I always am, by my mentor, my Sherpa, the director of distracting Dementors himself, Matt Sonnenberg.
How's it going tonight?
Fantastic, Matt. We have a lot to
Good to
cover
hear.
tonight.
We do.
Boy, oh boy.
I think we're finally getting into. It's almost like J.K. was listening to you all along and saying, "I want to hear more about Hogwarts and the classes and the things that go on there." And I think that's just about these two chapters.
Yeah, give me the mundane day-to-day operation details of Hogwarts that you haven't discussed yet.
Yeah, because mundane at Hogwarts is pretty spectacular.
It is to us.
Yep.
But there, it's just another day. It really is. These were long chapters.
And you see, that's what I was worried about going forward. Like the chapters do get a little longer from time to time, and it's like, so did we want to cut back to one chapter a week? But once we got into it, it's like, no, we really can't cut back.
Yeah, no, we couldn't. But there was a point when I had to stop in chapter 5 to make sure we were still in chapter 5 because it felt like the story was extending past what a normal chapter would allow.
Sure.
So it was a very confusing situation, but
especially when that just happened to you a couple weeks ago.
Right. Yeah, so now I'm on the lookout for that kind of stuff, and I feel like I'm fairly familiar with JK's writing style and know about when she likes to break up chapters, but
yeah, like a chapter is like a story within a story, and there's like a break there. But yeah, if you think about it, the title of chapter 5 kind of happens very early in the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's either a very short chapter or you like have to tell another story after that.
Sure.
So I think that's kind of what happened.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like it felt like they could have easily ended the chapter when Harry was unconscious.
Sure.
And just leave you at that like cliffhanger of what happened, what's going to happen, what happens next. I need to read to the next chapter. So, like, for that to continue within that chapter felt a little different than the norm, but regardless, here we are. For those that don't know, for those new to the podcast, we are currently reading book 3 of the Harry Potter franchise, Prisoner of Azkaban. This week, we are covering chapters 5 and chapter 6. We are reading about 2 chapters a week. We are encouraging the listening audience out there to read along with us. For some, they are reading for the countless number of times along with us. Some are reading the book for the first time, despite having watched the films many times. For very few, like me personally, this is all brand new. This is a whole new world, essentially. It's a lot of fun. We're enjoying ourselves. We're chugging right along through this book. No train pun intended. I will say I did order the Blu-ray of Prisoner of Azkaban today, so that's going to be coming, taunting me for the next few weeks.
Oh yeah, did you see what I got? I got to pick up this week.
Yeah,
that steelbook set from Best Buy, so nice. I've never touched steelbooks before.
Yeah,
but when I saw that Harry Potter steelbook collection, I'm like, yep, that is my collection.
Yeah, I wish I had an affinity for steelbooks. A lot of people do, but they're not my cup of tea.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I didn't even care that they were steelbooks. It just looked too good.
Sure. Yeah.
I wanted it.
I'm just fancy of the new covers for the new Blu-rays that I've been picking up.
That's true. That's true. They did definitely improve the covers.
Yeah.
And I think that the big thing with the covers nowadays, like they kind of, would you say, kind of highlight one very important part of that film or that book.
Yes.
Whereas I think at least the original covers that I remember that I have like on my DVDs, they're usually of characters.
Trio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the first one features the Sorting Hat. The second one has the door to the Chamber of Secrets. Prisoner of Azkaban has the number plate, I'm guessing, of the prisoner. I don't know. We haven't got to that part yet, so I have no idea what that means. But like there's the Goblet of Fire, which looks really awesome. Let's see. Order of the Phoenix? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I think it's a crystal ball. Maybe.
It could be.
I'm not sure. It's the Half-Blood Prince has... I'm not quite sure what it is. It kind of looks like a crown, but it also looks too big to be a crown. It might be an upside-down chandelier. I'm not really sure. It's the only cover I don't like of the entire set. I'm just not a fan of. And then I don't even remember what the last two look like.
I see what they did with that. Okay.
See, look, to fans all over the world, it makes 100% sense. All of it does. To me, I'm just like, I don't know. Sure.
Yep. Once you've been through the series, like it will make a lot more sense what they're doing with these covers.
Sure.
I mean, I remember you discussing with me the Chamber of Secrets cover, and it's like, yeah, there's some like snakes on it. I don't know. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that's the movie adaptation of the Chamber of Secrets door.
Right.
Like it's different, I believe, than it's described in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what they're going for. And so that's the thing. It's like everything on these covers are definitely from the movie.
Oh yeah. But like at least the Sorting Hat like looks like exactly how I pictured the Sorting Hat to look. Like the Chamber of Secrets door does not look like you said what's pictured in the book. But then once I saw the film, I was like, oh, okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. So this number plate for the prisoner, who knows? I don't know. I just know that I am in love with the cover of Goblet of Fire. So I'm super excited to get to that book for that reason alone, Matt. The aesthetics have already hooked me in.
Good to know.
Val is chomping at the bit to watch all the movies. Roughly 3 to 4 times a week, I hear about how badly she wants to watch all the films. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to buy them all so we have them all ready to go. And then she could watch them at her own leisure. But I don't want that to just be that stack of movies just sitting there taunting me for the next 2 years, Matt.
Yep.
Man, that's a long ways to wait.
I know. It feels like a long way when you say, yeah, it's going to take 2 years to do this. But at the same time, like as long as we keep moving every week.
I know. I just want to cheat so bad, Matt. I just want to lie to the people and just say, oh yeah, this is brand new. Look at this crazy theory I have. And like secretly just be watching them every night.
Yeah.
The temptation's real, Matt.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. It's tough.
Because, I mean, you're where we were at when we were reading these books. Like we wanted to know more.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is that you could easily know more.
I could.
We had no way to cheat when we were going through this.
Oh, I could just like type in 2 words and find out the entire story.
Yep.
It's scary. The power I wield, Matt, that I am resisting from using on a daily basis. I should be applauded for the self-restraint that is going on here, because it's tough, folks. I know many of you out there listening are laughing and chuckling along as I just writhe in agony week in and week out about wanting to know more and how stupid I am for doing this to myself, because I could have done this years ago with everybody else, but I had to be stubborn. I had to be difficult.
But don't get me wrong. The fans not only love watching you rise in agony, but they do also love hearing your theories and getting to relive this experience through you again.
Yeah, I do it for them, Matt.
Yep.
Definitely not doing this for myself. This is beyond any pain that any one man should feel. So, that being said, we have a few emails tonight to cover, which you'll sprinkle in, I think, a few throughout the show. Definitely, we'll have some at the end. We have a muggle... Whoa, sorry, I knocked Hagrid over on my desk. I got a little rambunctious, and he went flying. Sorry, Hagrid. We have a muggle poll to break down towards the end of the episode.
We do.
We got a lot of stuff to cover.
Absolutely.
Also, I want to remind people that Butterbeer Banter Round 2 is available for everybody out there to listen to. It's up on iTunes and everywhere podcasts are sold, except this one's free because we love you. We talked about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. A lot of fun. We talked much longer than I thought we were going to, but that kind of tends to happen with us. But yeah, everybody, I encourage everybody to go take a listen to it. If you haven't watched the film, and you don't want anything spoiled, just wait. It'll be there for you to listen to whenever you wish. So don't spoil a fantastic movie for yourself. So go in knowing that it's chock full of spoilers. About 5 minutes in, we start, then all the way through. So, but if you have seen it and you want to kind of figure out what we thought of it, our breakdown of it, it's all there for you. So check it out, will you? Matt already did.
It's true. It's like I was there.
Yeah, it was weird. Weird.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to start, Matt, before we jump into chapter 5?
Yeah, we're actually going to take some emails right away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep, right off the bat.
Look at that.
So, this first email comes from Falcon, which,
Hi, Falcon.
by the way, I hope that is your real name. I would love to have a friend named Falcon.
I feel like we do already, even if it's not real.
Fair enough.
We're friends with Falcon right now, Matt.
So he writes in and says, a little bit late, but I just realized that at the end of book 1, when Dumbledore receives a fake summons to the Ministry, Dumbledore travels on a broomstick. This is pretty funny and weird. Clearly, we know there are several far quicker and more efficient ways for wizards to travel anywhere across the country, such as Floo powder, apparition, or an enchanted car. It seems like in the wizarding world, broomsticks are exclusively used for sport and not serious travel, except for this one instance. I think she clearly had a lot of the series planned out by book 1, but it's funny to see at least one instance where she clearly hadn't thought out every aspect of the world by the end of the first book. Keep up the great work. I love the pod. So I had to think about this, and I even went back and checked out book 1 a little bit, and I couldn't find anywhere that it's explicitly stated that Dumbledore was on a broomstick. Like Dumbledore and broomstick never come together, but it does mention Dumbledore flying. Like he, because Harry asks him like about Hermione's owl, and he says, "Oh, we must have crossed in midair," which gives you the impression that he was flying.
Right.
And when they go to run into McGonagall, and they're looking for Dumbledore, and she says, "Oh, you just missed him. He flew to London 10 minutes ago." So they mention him flying, which I guess, like, you don't talk about flying if you're using Floo powder or apparition or
that was
like
what I was going to ask. Like, if you're using the Floo powder, does that like count as flying? Like, are you actually traveling through the air, or is it more of like a disappearing from one and appearing in the other?
You're traveling through a network of fireplaces.
Right. But like once
Like,
you shoot up through the fireplace, like
yeah,
people can't look up and see people just flying through the air as they go to the next chimney.
I don't think so. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's not how I read it or
Yeah.
imagined it in my head.
So I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess I would assume that, yeah, he was using a broomstick as well.
Yeah. Probably wasn't using a flying car, as cool as that would be.
Yeah.
Unless he has like a flying motorcycle too. Him and Hagrid have a flying motorcycle gang.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm.
I like it.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Interesting.
that is kind of weird. You don't think about Dumbledore flying on a broomstick, really, but...
Here's a question.
Yeah?
We talked about it on the Butterbeer Banter episode.
Sure.
The wizards and witches who... they use it quite frequently in Fantastic Beasts. The disappearing...
Yeah.
What was the official term for it?
Apparition.
Apparition? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Is there a length limit? Like, is it like Nightcrawler and X-Men who has to be able to see where he's going in order to do it? Like, what are the guidelines for this?
So there are still, by the end of the series, we will learn more about it.
Okay.
So I'm not going to spoil too much.
Okay, fair enough.
But I will say, even by the end of the series, I believe there are still a few unanswered questions.
Okay.
Like, I think when we get to that point, we can probably discuss it more.
Like Newt takes a boat from England to New York City.
Yep.
Could he have just appeared and disappeared and appeared like there? Is that too long of a distance to travel that way?
Yeah, it would be very, like, I guess that I would say, yeah, it's too far.
Okay.
You wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay, fair enough.
I have a specific reasons for saying that, but I'm
Sure.
not going to explain why right now.
I believe you. I'm not going to press you on it, but
Yeah.
I guess just seeing it used so much in Fantastic Beast.
Yep. Because it is a fairly common thing for fully licensed witches and wizards.
Right. Which I guess we really haven't seen much in this series yet, have we? I mean, other than the professors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you, actually, we'll touch on it a few more times even in this book.
I'm guessing at Hogsmeade.
We'll see.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people there that are capable of that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's possible.
Also, where else are we going to go in this book? I mean, other than the prison, possibly. I don't know. Other than Hogwarts, you know? Anyway, thank you, Falcon, for that email.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for writing in.
That is an interesting thing, and now I'm going to be thinking about Dumbledore on a broom now for the rest of the show, so that's another thing.
And then, secondly, I'm going to once again split up our buddy Alex's email and cover a couple of things beforehand here and then save the rest of it for later.
Okay.
It says, Dear Josh and Matt, as listeners of the ABC podcast know, little shameless plug in there.
Yeah, we'll allow it.
However, I think there was a typo here, and I've tried to figure out like 3 times what he's actually trying to say here. I'll read it verbatim.
Okay.
As listeners of the ABC podcast know, I am wont to do.
Okay. Yep.
I can't quite figure that out. In any case, I have a few corrections.
It's your Wisconsin accent, Matt. That's the problem. You're not saying it right.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have a few corrections and expanded thoughts from a previous episode I'd like to share before giving my thoughts on the present chapters. I'll start with the easiest bits first, and I'm going to give this one to him. I was going to correct myself later in the episode,
Okay.
but I'll let him have this one because I'm going to tear him down on the second one. There's only one head boy and one head girl at Hogwarts, not one for each house.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That would make the prefects rather redundant, he points out as well. which is a very good point as well.
See, in my head, once you confirm that there was one for each house, then I started thinking about, are there prefects for each year, or are the prefects like the deputy sheriffs, you know?
Yeah. So there's one prefect, one male prefect and one female prefect
Per house.
in each house.
And then only one head boy and one
then
head girl
one
for the
head
entire
boy and
school.
Yes.
Okay.
And that became clear as we were reading through this chapter, actually. You may have caught that. So yes, thank you, Alex, for pointing that out. I figured I hit that point in the chapter. I'm like, shoot, I screwed that up last week. Was not thinking clearly.
Sure.
Well,
I blindsided you with a weird question, Matt. That's
yeah. See, but then he got me second guessing myself here when he with his second point here, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I got this right. I'm pretty sure I got this right, and I got this right.
Okay.
So, second, when referring to the act of apparating, Matt mistakenly said apparition, which I've already used a couple times tonight.
Right.
Which is the appearance or visitation of a spirit or supernatural being.
Sure.
Instead of apparition. Which he thinks I should be using.
Okay.
Well, Alex, I'm here to tell you that no. Apparition is correct. If you don't believe me, you can do a quick Google search, and you will pull up the Harry Potter wiki, which over the past 20 years...
I feel like I'm not allowed to go on there, Matt.
Yes, but... you could just type in apparition and you will see that there is an article about it on the wiki.
Okay. I'll take your word, because I'm deathly afraid of Googling anything Harry Potter related.
Yes. But it's there. And like I said, over the past 2 decades, if it hasn't been fixed by all the Potterheads out there, like there's something seriously wrong about that. Sure. Like that wiki is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And if you want even more proof, Alex, I suggest you go back to book 6, reread chapter 18, and that should cement it for you.
Gauntlet has been thrown down.
So yes, I'm sticking with apparition.
Can I go back to book 6 and read chapter 18?
No, you haven't been there before, so you cannot go back.
Can I operate there?
You can try. But yeah, but at the same time, like he gave us a definition of apparition, right? Mm-hmm. The appearance or visitation of a spirit or a supernatural being.
Sure.
Wouldn't you consider witches and wizards supernatural beings?
I would say so.
So I think it's fairly fitting.
I agree, Matt. I agree. That's 1 on the Slytherin scoreboard. Do we know what house Alex belongs to?
I'm guessing he probably told us at one point, but honestly, I don't remember.
He's probably a Ravenclaw. The one Ravenclaw. That's why he's so grumpy, because I keep telling him he doesn't exist. So
I'm a Ravenclaw.
I thought you were Slytherin. Oh, you just like Slytherin.
No, I like Slytherin's colors.
That's right. Matt, I don't believe you're a Ravenclaw. There is no Ravenclaw.
All right.
You're Slytherin at heart.
If you say so.
You'd make a good Slytherin, Matt.
That I'm not sure how to take.
Like you're fond of the colors.
But you would make a good Slytherin?
Sure.
You're telling me I would make a good bad guy?
I don't know. Sorting Hat told that to Harry. We think he's the bee's knees.
Yeah, okay.
I just need proof Ravenclaw exists. That's all.
All
One of these books. I bet you if I go to book 6, chapter 18, I'll find something.
No, I don't think you'll find anything about Ravenclaw there.
Oh no, that's a bad sign. What happens to Ravenclaw?
Don't worry.
Oh, geez.
You will get more proof of Ravenclaw. I promise you.
This book, Matt,
I don't know about this book.
Oh God. The quest to find Ravenclaw.
There's a specific instance I'm thinking of, and it's not in this book. So we'll see. All right, on to this week's chapters. This week we start with chapter 5, titled "The Dementor," and we did meet a few new characters.
Yeah, we did.
Some of the actually only a couple of new characters, but for whatever reason, we got a lot of first names that previously we didn't have. I don't know if you caught some of them.
Possibly.
We
a lot
actually
of them
had
start mixing in together in my head. So
yeah, we actually had a number of characters that we've met a number of times throughout the first 2 books, and you may not have noticed that they didn't have first names ever.
Okay.
So, okay, we'll start off with the first guy we met, Professor R.J. Lupin. New professor. Defense Against Dark Arts.
I got some things to say about that.
We met. I had to put it on here because there's more than one of them, but the Dementor. We kind we kind of had it up close and personal with one of them, so I decided to put them on there.
Sure.
We had a mention of Professor Kettleburn.
Yeah. The one that left?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
He retired.
Okay. Yes.
And your boy kind of took over for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had to go enjoy his limbs while he still had them. So.
Yes. And then the group of first names that we didn't have up until now.
Okay.
Crab and Goyle. Yeah. Did you know the first names?
No, I think I missed this part.
Really?
Or maybe I didn't register that it was the same.
Yeah, it's when, I mean, they fit, I think, so it just works, that you may not have noticed, but this is one of those things that I've noticed when rereading them. I'm like, I guess that is the first time. It's Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle. They were announced when Malfoy came to Harry's train car.
Oh, right.
And
right.
Crabbe and Goyle at his sides. Every other time, it's just Malfoy along with Crabbe and Goyle.
Sure.
But this time, when we kind of got to, the slight recap of everywhere Malfoy went, Crabbe and Goyle always followed. But this time, it was Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle.
The reintroduction.
Except, this time we got first names, which is the introduction of them.
Sure.
But then we also got Madame Pomfrey. We learned her first name is Poppy.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yep.
I did not realize that was the first time we heard that.
Yeah, a couple of times McGonagall this time referred to her as Poppy. So, but yeah, we prior to that it was always Madame Pomfrey.
Sure.
Madame Pomfrey.
That works.
Pomfrey. Yep.
She seems like a Poppy.
And I had to go back and check too. It's like, do we find out later? Like, is that longer is that short for something?
Yeah.
Maybe. Like, because Poppy to me just doesn't seem like a given name. It feels like a nickname.
Yeah, but over in England they do weird things sometimes.
All right. I'll let you deal with that one.
I love the entire country over there, Matt. It's Canada I have a problem with.
Oh, great. Even closer to home. All right. But yeah, that's all the new characters I believe we have for this chapter.
Okay. I like it. Speaking of characters and first names, starting off the chapter with Tom waking up Harry threw me for a loop. And I think we talked about this, how you didn't like how there's multiple people named Tom in the story.
That was actually in an email we got.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't me specifically.
I knew it was brought up at least.
Yes, yeah.
But I completely forgot about that, and it's been a week since reading the last 2 chapters. So starting off this chapter, chapter 5, The Dementor, with Tom waking up Harry, I actually had to stop and try to think about who Tom was, because in my head, I'm thinking Tom Riddle. This is a weird thing. Why is he waking up Harry? What's going on? What did I miss? Did we skip a chapter? How long has it been since I've read Harry Potter? I had to question everything going on around me.
Yeah, you can thank Alex for that one. That was his email last week.
But then, it was reminded to me that Tom was the name of the innkeeper at the Leaky Cauldron, and
yep.
Oh, that makes sense. That's where we are. Okay, then I had this flashback of everything that happened last chapter. But I could not wrap my head around this Tom character waking up Harry and what I had missed. I felt like there was just this chunk of the story just removed from my head, and and it's just because the name Tom.
Sure.
Just just didn't sit well with me this week.
I believe it.
So just had to get out there. We're talking about first names of people. Here's the thing I want to start with.
Yeah.
Percy.
Yep.
Perfect Percy. He gets picked on by his little brothers, the twins, quite often.
Yep.
They like to harass him as much as they possibly can.
Absolutely.
I feel like at this point in his life that he should know that if anything is wrong or misplaced, it's probably not Ron's fault. Ron's usually not guilty of it, if only by association sometimes. But I'm guessing probably 90%, if not more, of the time, it's the twins.
Yes.
Messing with him.
I think the biggest thing here was he was sharing a room with Ron.
I know, but still, who it is.
Yeah.
Even if Ron is being set up, you should know it's not Ron. Ron just doesn't care enough to want to pick on Percy.
Well, you see, and that's the thing is, Ron's not doing much to help his case either. He's just denying doing anything. He should be go point Percy towards Fred and George.
Should he have to, though?
Probably not.
I mean, I'm sure Ron's sick of defending himself at this point.
Well, even in exasperation, I could see myself. It's not me. Go ask Fred and George.
I just feel like Percy's oblivious to what is going on around him, because they're always responsible for everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ron's in his own little world. He has Scabbers to worry about. He's thinking about the next big adventure with Harry. He doesn't have time to mess with Percy. That's not his style, man.
No. But it was the first person he saw, so
sure.
Basically,
it just made me mad. I was stop picking on Ron. He's clearly the innocent one in all of this, consistently.
But it gave Fred and George a good chuckle.
Yeah, well, as most things that they get away with. I also want to mention how nice it is, or must have been for Ron and Harry, up until it went horribly wrong, to ride Hogwarts Express back to Hogwarts this year.
Yes,
because they're explaining the whole
the train
thing
with everybody else.
Yeah, the train, the luggage. I'm wow, this is really detailed. And then I was oh yeah, that's because they didn't go on the train last year. We didn't even have a scene with them on the train in the second book because they decided to fly there in the car.
I mean, they followed the train, so
sure.
They dipped down from the clouds to see it now and then. But
we didn't get that description of
the interior of the train.
Yeah,
no, nothing.
The snack lady coming through and the luggage stacked up. It was very well detailed in this book, but it was only because we didn't get that in the second book because those two pranksters. Actually, I blame Dobby.
Yeah, it's totally Dobby.
Okay. Here's a wild prediction. We're just getting right into it, Matt.
Go for it.
This is going to get hot and heavy real quick here. So Harry's talking to Mr. Weasley about, he knows that he knows that he knows. A whole back and forth,
Yep.
You're not going to get in trouble. You didn't go on against your word because I overheard you, type of thing. Mr. Weasley's like super worried about him, and Harry's like, I got this. Don't even sweat it, man. I got this. I'm Harry Potter, There's something that Mr. Weasley said that got me thinking.
Yep.
He told Harry not to go looking for Sirius Black.
He did.
Why would he say that, Matt?
Yeah.
Why would he say that? Now, is he thinking...
Harry's wondering the same thing.
Is he thinking that Harry and probably Ron are going to go after some bounty that might be on Sirius Black's head? That wouldn't be the case. Harry's rich. He doesn't need the cash to go, to go catch an escaped prisoner of Azkaban. That doesn't make sense. Would they be doing it just for the thrill of the hunt because Harry and Ron are dumb 13-year-olds that do stupid things? Possibly, but it seems a little abnormal for them, when it's all said and done. So why would he be afraid that Harry was going to go looking for Sirius Black, especially after Harry heard whatever it is he's not supposed to hear?
Well, I mean, you look at it from the Weasleys' perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have the advantage of following Ron and Harry throughout this whole adventure.
Right.
But think about it from the Weasley parents.
Mm-hmm.
What have they seen over the past 2 years?
Harry and Ron get into adventures bigger than they should be.
They've seen, Harry down in the with the Sorcerer's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting through all those traps.
Mm-hmm.
Ron got knocked out. Harry went after, ended up fighting Voldemort essentially in the form of Quirrell.
Sure.
He did that.
Mm-hmm.
They I think there's a very good chance did not get any of the story leading up to that.
Right. Sure.
They just see that Harry went after Voldemort.
Yeah. They went to the Forbidden Forest a couple times.
In the Chamber of Secrets. They know that Harry went down into the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah.
Basically willingly.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up fighting Voldemort.
Well, he was trying to save Ginny.
Yes, but ended up fighting Voldemort.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, this is the sort of recaps that the parents are going to get. They don't get all the details.
Sure.
They just get to see the big picture kind of stuff.
Okay.
Like, this is what Harry does.
Yeah.
And so we get this black character who, I mean, as they're discussing here, like, he was close to Voldemort.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're worried about Harry going and trying to do something about it.
Especially if Harry knows that he's after him.
Yeah.
That's all fine and dandy, Matt. But there's more to this.
Yeah?
This is where my wild prediction comes in.
Okay.
I am curious if Sirius Black is related to Harry Potter. Is he...
How so?
Harry Potter's father? Is this a Darth Vader scenario where, like, Harry Potter's father died, but then this other character who's horribly evil is, like, Anakin Skywalker, Anakin dies, quote unquote, and becomes Darth Vader. Is this the same type of scenario here? Like, what could Harry learn about Sirius Black that's going to make him want to go find him? And what has Harry always wanted to know since, like, for as long as he could remember, is he wanted to know about his parents. He got a glimpse of his parents in the first book. We didn't get anything really. I mean, we got some details, I guess, a little bit of, in the second book a little bit. We've already had a reference to his parents in this third book because of his horrible aunt who despised him. Now, okay, we know that they didn't die in a car crash. We know that they were allegedly killed by Voldemort, but what if he wasn't? What if he was just recruited by Voldemort?
Well, I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
Harry has seen his father in the mirror.
Sure.
As you mentioned.
Yeah.
And Harry has seen a picture of Sirius Black.
Okay. Doesn't mean anything.
You don't think he would recognize something?
Matt,
like everybody has always said Harry looks like his father.
Matt, I just saw Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and there was a bad guy who disguised himself as somebody completely different, and fooled pretty much an entire governing body of wizards in the meantime. So if that could happen, I feel like they could pull one over on old Harry Potter here.
Okay.
I don't know why, but that's hearing that line, that like warning to not go look for him, despite what you may hear. It got me thinking, what could Harry hear about this character that's gonna want to make Harry go find him, actively go search him out? You know.
So you're telling me Harry's father went as bad as it can go.
Yep.
And
became a disciple of Lord Voldemort, named Sirius Black.
Okay.
That's my running theory right now.
We'll file that one away in Josh's Wild Theories.
I'm sure we'll come back to that at some point in this book, but yeah, I just it stuck out to me. They moved on pretty quickly from it, but like even Harry was kind of stuck on it for a while, like when he was telling Ron and Hermione, and they're like, well, you're crazy. Why would you go looking for somebody who's wanting to kill you? You know, that's stupid. There has to be something. There has to be a very good reason why Harry would go search out this character.
Sure.
And it's not just because, yeah, I mean, maybe it is to go save somebody again. I mean, that's totally a noble thing that Harry Potter would do. It just, I don't know. It feels like Mr. Weasley and probably everybody else in the know something big about this character. There's a reason. They're not just trying to protect Harry's life. You know? Yeah. There's something more going on. This is a special circumstance here.
Well, I think you mentioned Ron and Hermione, like Harry telling Ron and Hermione about this, and he meant there was a quote: both Ron and Hermione seemed to be much more frightened of Black than he was. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to bring up that point because this is the same thing that happened with Harry and Voldemort. Because Voldemort, like Harry's not afraid to say the name.
Sure.
Everybody else cringes at it.
Yeah.
And Ron for sure, maybe not Hermione because she had Muggle parents, but Ron I'm sure had like grown up hearing like horror stories about Voldemort for sure, and very possibly about Black as well.
Yeah, maybe.
And so that's where they're all coming from.
Sure,
I think. And like maybe Hermione hadn't heard stories, but maybe she read something about it. You know, all the reading she's done in the past couple of years.
Yeah, maybe.
So I mean, I think that's why she has some idea about it too. But to Harry, they're brand new people.
Yeah, he doesn't know any better.
He had no idea who Voldemort was. It was just another guy. It's like, oh, he's supposed to be bad. Oh, I'm not supposed to say his name.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, he was also told
it's just
that the world's most evil wizard and ever in the history of ever. Harry defeated him when he was just a little baby. So I mean, that kind of gives a guy an ego complex. Like if I could beat him as a baby, he has nothing on me now.
Well, yeah, and you see now that's building up.
Right.
He beat him as a baby.
Sure.
He beat him in his first year. He beat him in his second year.
Yeah.
And so Black, he can't be any worse than Voldemort.
You would think not.
I mean, otherwise he would have been in charge. He would have been in command. But
Right. And if he's not any worse, why is everybody...
He got caught, you know? It's I think the biggest thing about Black right now, the biggest, scariest thing, is that he escaped Azkaban.
Right.
And no one's ever done that before.
Sure.
So there seems to be something about him,
right,
that makes him different.
Yeah, but everybody else doesn't seem... I mean, like, the kids do, but, like, the professors and the parents, like, they don't seem necessarily afraid of him. They're more afraid for Harry. You know, whereas Voldemort, everybody's afraid of Voldemort, you know, except, like, Dumbledore.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, since Black is kind of like that second-in-command character, not quite up to Voldemort's level.
Sure.
Other witches and wizards, other professors could probably put up a pretty good fight against him. Whereas the professors in particular, when they're at Hogwarts, their job is kind of to protect the students in addition to teaching them. So, they're kind of worried about the kids. But
the
they're
kids
not
are
as worried.
Harry.
I would think everybody. I mean, Harry in particular, if there's this rumor that he's coming after Harry, sure. Like that's what you protect first. But I mean, he killed what they say 13 people
and one curse.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm hung up on horrible Aunt Marge just being so disrespectful about Harry's father, especially, and now he was a no good, worthless bum, essentially, and that just set Harry off. Like, I'm hung up on that for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay.
You know, maybe she wasn't saying anything about Harry's mom because, you know, that's Aunt Petunia, right? Is that her name?
Yes.
Petunia, yeah.
Petunia?
That's her sister, you know, so she's not going to necessarily say too many horrible things about her other than, like, her choices in men. But, like, gloves are off when it came to his dad. And just the reaction that it got, like, I don't know, Matt. I don't know. I'm probably super wrong about this, but I feel like there's a couple puzzle pieces that possibly might be fitting into place here.
Sure.
How it happened, I don't know. What the circumstances are, I don't know. Maybe he's not even that bad. Like, maybe it's just all a ruse to keep Harry from learning the truth about him. I don't know. I don't know. Was his dad a Slytherin, and that's why he was going to be a good Slytherin, or could have been a good Slytherin? I mean, so many things, Matt. So many things.
Well, we have a lot to learn. So.
I feel like we do.
We do.
Yeah. We don't need to worry about Sirius Black for a couple more chapters, though. Or at least this show.
Yes, as far as you know.
R.J. Lupin.
Yes.
Here we go again.
Another teacher. Another year.
Defense against the Dark Arts professor. Looks like a bum. Yep. He has ratty robes. He has a old briefcase that looks like it's falling apart. Like, I'm just shaking my head, Matt. I'm physically just getting upset at the description of this character. I'm mad. Yep. I'm physically, emotionally mad about this as the reading is happening, because I'm just thinking, why is it this hard? I mean, you know, they joke about how the job is cursed or whatever.
Yep. And I mean, they said last year already, like, Lockhart was the only one who applied for the job.
Yeah.
So what do you do the year after that?
He's sleeping on the train. He's not coherent. He's not conscious about anything going on around him. Like, nothing about this screams, oh, this is going to be a good fit. Like, I'm sitting here thinking this is going to go horribly wrong, just like the last two, and this is just going to be a reoccurring theme. Like, this is the running joke throughout the Harry Potter series, is the defense against the dark arts professor just being a laughingstock. Like, they just pick the worst of the worst people for this job. That's what I'm thinking. I'm getting mad about this.
I believe it.
And then he redeems himself, Matt, like just instantly. Like, skipping ahead a little bit, but like I even put on my notes, he is the living example of don't judge a book by its cover.
yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Like that's the mantra of this chapter is this guy looks like a bum, like all the kids are making fun of him. He clearly does not look qualified to be a professor, much less a bum sleeping on a train car. And then here he is defending all the kids from the Dementor, getting them away, and then reviving Harry with magical chocolate. Like, he didn't do anything wrong at all. Like, if anything, he was the most, like, responsible person on that train and, like, the best person they could have had at that moment.
Yep.
Like, if he wasn't there, things were going to go horribly wrong, I think. It could have been real bad real quickly,
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
But was he on the same car as Harry for a reason?
Maybe.
But yeah, it's just like in a matter of like half a chapter, I went from I hate everything about this. What is Dumbledore doing? He does not know how to hire people. Like, he has some amazing skills, but hiring people for a job is not at the top of his list on his LinkedIn profile,
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like, I'm just like, Lupin is like the best professor I've ever seen in my life. Like, this is the most amazing thing that could possibly happen to Hogwarts.
Yeah.
He doesn't look the part, but he sure as heck is playing it.
So I do want to clear something up because before I forget about it.
Okay.
You mentioned magical chocolate.
Well, I mean, I'm just calling it magical chocolate. I know it's just chocolate, and that's a remedy for what's going on.
Okay.
I know there wasn't anything magical per se about that specific chocolate.
I just wanted to make sure.
No.
Like you could have gone either way with that, but yeah, it is just regular chocolate. It just has that effect.
At the same time, there's chocolate frogs that jump around, and that's kind of magical.
Yes.
So
yes, they have a charm put on them. Sure.
Yeah.
So there's nothing particularly special about the chocolate. Any chocolate would have done.
Right.
In this instance.
Yes. Thank you for clearing that up.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, R.J. Lupin. I don't know where we're going with this character. He's. I'm all on board for what Lupin is bringing to the table here. It could go south really quickly with this job. It's bound to happen. What's he hiding?
I mean, I think it's safe to say though that we're gonna see some more of him.
Probably,
as we tend to with the teacher in this position.
Sure,
they tend to stick around for a while. Yeah. I mean, well, for a year. They don't stick around all that long, actually. But.
I'm just glad every episode going forward, Matt, isn't going to be just me audibly being disgusted at who the professor is.
Yeah, I made a note here later on in the chapter that Madame Pomfrey recognized, hey, Lupin might actually be competent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like when Harry told her that, he gave us all chocolate. He knows what he's doing.
She perked right up. She's like, oh, wow, okay.
Oh. I mean, because you kind of wonder like how long this has been going on that they've been getting a new teacher every year.
Yeah.
Like who was before Quirrell?
Right.
I mean, how long had he been there? Or,
just the previous year she had to deal with Lockhart trying to do her job for her and making everything,
worse,
horribly worse.
Yeah.
So like, I think she's like a little
Harry's arm.
Yeah, she's relieved that like she's going to be able to do her job and maybe not have to do it as much because there's a competent professor out there.
Yeah.
That's a nice feeling, Matt.
Absolutely.
Teamwork makes the dream work, my friend. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of my notes, I'm talking about how I'm concerned about Lupin's ability to teach this class. Like, he just sounds just not qualified at all. And 180-degree about face on that. So, Hogsmeade sounds wonderful.
Yeah, we got a little quick preview of Hogsmeade, kind of.
Sounds like a fun place.
One note I did make about that was we had previously said that Hogsmeade is a completely wizarding village, and now we learned that it's actually the only non-Muggle settlement in Britain.
Right.
So I mean that makes it even that much more special. Like there's no other place in Britain they can go where there are no Muggles.
Yeah, like just completely uninhibited. Use magic, as freely as you'd like. Probably. I mean, I don't know what kind of restrictions they have, but
sure.
Obviously, the kids probably aren't allowed to do so outside of Hogwarts. But
yeah,
but like people could, it was like the Speakeasy bar in Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah,
where it was just
you don't have to hide who you are.
No, absolutely not. So, that sounds cool. I can't wait to get to this book.
Yep.
I can't imagine the Hogwarts Express just stops suddenly very often.
No, you don't get that impression.
Yeah. I mean, it's pouring down rain, bad weather, but coming to a complete stop, like just in the middle of the journey, that's not a normal thing.
Yeah.
Before we get to the Dementor here, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could answer this for me. I don't even know if you know the answer to this or not. Okay, so students are not allowed to use magic outside of Hogwarts.
Sure.
Right? So when they're home for the summer or for the holidays, no magic.
Yep.
Are they allowed to use magic on the train as they're going to Hogwarts? What are the boundaries for this?
Yeah, it's probably a gray area.
Because there's no Muggles around on the train.
Yeah, because like we've said before, it's usually using magic in front of Muggles. That's kind of that extra stipulation we talked about earlier in this book, even. And I'm trying to remember now if it was actually in the book or if that was in the movie only, when Ron tried to turn Scabbers yellow in the very first book.
Mm-hmm.
He did that on the train.
Right.
I know that was in the movie for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I want to say it was in the book too.
I think so, yeah.
And so obviously, that wasn't real magic, but just the fact that Ron, especially when he was young, was a fairly law-abiding citizen, if you will.
Right.
And so I don't think he would have tried something like that if it weren't allowed. Or no, we see Hermione from time to time fix Harry's glasses.
Yeah, little things, right?
Yeah,
but they have their wands on the train.
Oh yeah, I mean they have everything on the train.
Okay,
all their stuff because they bring their trunks.
Yeah.
Oh sure.
Their wands are on their person.
Yeah, because I mean they usually change from their Muggle clothing into their school robes on the train.
Sure. So
they have access to all their stuff.
Okay. So where I'm getting at is the train goes completely dark. Nobody can see anything. Neville Longbottom is running into everybody because he's Neville.
Yeah.
None of the kids pull out their wand and use the Luminos spell to light it up.
Lumos, but yeah.
Lumos.
Yeah, I mean, we really only kind of get this shot from one cabin in the train car here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know what the other students are doing. I could see maybe like Percy. I could see him maybe trying to take charge and do something.
Or Hermione, who has been known to conjure up some fire to light up a dark area.
Sure. I think the biggest thing here is that it takes everybody by surprise. No one's expecting it. They probably have their wands on the train, but might not have them on their person at the time.
Okay.
I'm sure maybe some of them are playing around with their wands, and might do something, but that'd be my biggest guess is that one, it was a surprise, and two, they might not have their wand with them.
Okay. I don't know. It bugged me that nobody lit up the area. Like,
Sure.
To me, that's the first thing that I would do. Like, hey, I'm capable of creating a light source. I'm going to do that because I can't see, and Neville is trying to sit on my lap right now.
Yeah, I think it kind of went like unnaturally black too, really fast.
Yeah.
And so if they didn't have their wand with them, like it'd be hard to find it.
Well, that's why I was asking if they normally keep it on their person
Yeah.
or would be stashed in their trunk, which would be difficult to get to.
I think it's definitely possible they could have it on them, but depending where they were in the train ride, I'm guessing most of them don't have it on them at the station.
Right.
And so it depends, had they changed into their school robes yet. Like that's kind of in my mind when they would grab their wand as well.
Sure.
It's like we're going into magic mode here.
Okay. I don't know. It's just something I thought about.
Yeah. Valid question.
So we met the Dementor of Azkaban, one of the guards.
Yes. The Dementors are the guards of Azkaban.
Yes. Now, they're pretty bad creatures. They're foul, disgusting, gross, hideous, horrible creatures.
Yeah.
Right?
The first description we get is just, whew.
Yeah. Now, my question, are they guards because of how horrible they are, or are they horrible because they're guards of Azkaban?
They're guards because of how horrible they are.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought, but I was like,
Yeah,
well, maybe that position just wears a guy down, you know?
No. That's why they're there at Azkaban.
Okay.
Because I believe it was Ron who described it. It felt like he'd never be cheerful again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's essentially what they're doing to anybody who's in Azkaban.
Right.
And that's, I mean, aside from being separated from society and being sent to prison, that's essentially what your punishment is at Azkaban.
Sure. Now, are all Dementors guards at Azkaban, or like are there Dementors out there in the wild just doing Dementor things?
I don't think it's explicitly stated one way or the other.
Okay.
But I get the impression that they're all at Azkaban.
Okay, that's if
yeah,
a Dementor, like that's your role in this universe.
Yeah.
Essentially.
They're
not out there like roaming the Forbidden Forest just because they don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
Like we will, this is another area we will learn a little bit more about.
Sure.
And I don't want to say too much at this point.
Fair enough.
But they can exist outside Azkaban.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to picture, like, is there a scenario where like the entire world is inhabited by like Dementors, and we just don't see them? They're hiding like in the bottom of lakes and
Sure.
in dark forests and just doing their thing, or like the concentration of Dementors are going to be guards at this prison.
Yeah, I guess the easiest thing to say at this point is you're probably unlikely to find a Dementor outside Azkaban.
Okay, that's fair.
With the exception of, as we get into, they're at Hogwarts this year.
Sure. I mean, but they're also serving their job that they have.
Yeah, because these specific Dementors came from Azkaban.
Right.
So, yeah.
Like, you're not just going to just, like, there's not, like, some Dementors, like, playing poker, like, in a back alley somewhere, just, because they're just completely bored with life. Like that's their purpose is serving as guards.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Had to clear that up. So pretty bad thing. Frightens the kids, frightens everybody. Harry has an unusual experience with him, especially.
Yeah.
Kind of scary. And like I said, like, him, like, passing out, like, that would have been a typical end of chapter.
Sure.
Like, oh, what happened to Harry? I'll go on to the next page and you'll find out in the next chapter. But, like, he was revived. He was woken up. Didn't quite know what was going on. He was surprised to find out, like, he was the only one that, like, passed out.
Yeah.
He heard a scream that nobody else heard. That's interesting.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the first time he's heard things other people don't hear.
Yeah, what's that about, Matt?
Don't know.
Was it a snake screaming in the background somewhere? Was it his parcel tongue kicking in? Parcel.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, parcel tongue. You got it.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I'm curious.
He is a parcel mouth. He speaks parcel tongue.
Okay, that's the two. I cannot remember which one's which.
Yep.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I reiterate it for you.
It's never gonna stick though. Interesting. What did the Dementor do to him? I don't know.
Yeah. The one note I had was like, how long was Harry actually out?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like they never really state like it just says he woke up, like
right.
It just but apparently by that point everybody else was fine and dandy, and it's like, oh, glad you're awake.
Yeah, and it's hard to say because we don't know how close they were to Hogwarts when the train stopped. Like, the time frame of, like, the entire trip is kind of very loose and open to interpretation, I think. So could have been a couple minutes, could have been a couple hours for all we know. But everything was fine and dandy. Chocolate apparently cures what ails you when it comes to the touch of the Dementor. Interesting things. I don't know what to think of that. I really don't. It's a mystery. Sure. Another mystery, though, is why is Harry, at this point in his life, still surprised that people know his name that he's never met? He is the famous Harry Potter.
Yeah, but I mean,
I know it's weird for a 13-year-old to have that kind of notoriety, but
yes, but I mean, you think about it too. Like, people know the name Harry Potter, but it's not like his picture is in books or his picture is in the papers or this sort of thing. Like, he hasn't really been publicized in the past few years. Like I said, people know his name. They know that he took down Voldemort 13 years ago, but
he also has a lightning bolt scar on his forehead, Matt.
That's usually covered by his hair.
Yeah, but if he's passed out, I'm sure his hair is just kind of flopping over all over the place.
Yeah, but he just woke up from being passed out. He's not putting two and two together.
I know. I'm just saying, like, every time he's just surprised that somebody knows who he is without him meeting him. It's like, well, come on, Harry. You know better by now. Just get used to it. Sign your autograph and move on. If you learned anything from Lockhart, it's to, embrace your adoring audience and give them what they're looking for. Nice to see Hagrid back.
Yeah, he's back.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have lots of questions. I'm starting.
I love your questions.
Think about things. Okay, so in the first book, the first time getting to Hogwarts, they meet Hagrid there. He takes all the first years on a boat across the lake to Hogwarts. Yep. Everything's golden, right?
Yep.
Second book, Harry and Ron crash in their flying car right onto the lawns of Hogwarts. We bypassed all of the fanfare getting into Hogwarts.
Yes.
So this year is the first year that we've experienced Harry and Ron coming to Hogwarts as non-first years. And we learn that there are carriages that take everybody up to Hogwarts that get off the Hogwarts Express, other than the first years who have to take boat with Hagrid.
Yep.
Why do the first years have to take a boat with Hagrid when there's just carriages that just drive up there?
I like to believe, at least, I believe I mentioned this when we were going through the first book, that if Disney had gotten a hold of the theme park, that this would have been a ride.
Sure.
Like, it just has that feeling of Disney magic, of getting in a boat, going across this magical lake, looking up at a castle, and going in the secret entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Two, one, I think it's partially for the experience.
Okay.
But I think that's just more my own reasoning. The real reasoning, I think, might be more of a timing thing.
What do you mean?
Because what's the first thing the first years do when they get to the castle?
Sorting hat?
Yep.
Okay.
When they get sorted,
everybody's already at the tables.
You got it.
Okay.
So if the boats take a little bit longer, you get everybody there in the coaches, get them all into the Great Hall, get them all ready to go, then bring in the first years.
Okay.
Wouldn't it make more sense to make the first year's trek a little bit longer than
I guess so.
Everybody else's?
So it is just for the fanfare.
And, I mean, to kind of, I mean, it could be that social gathering icebreaker situation for the first years too.
Sure.
It's like, here, we're going to stick you in a boat with 4 other people, get to know them.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that in a carriage.
Yeah, but I mean, it separates the first years from everybody else.
Yeah.
It's like, these are the kids you're going to be going to school with for the next 7 years, as opposed to, oh, you get in carriage with this 7th year, he'll be gone next year, but sure, you can talk to him.
Right. I guess I was just disappointed to hear that, like, oh, you just pile into a carriage and just drive up, the road to the mountain. I was just like, really? That's it? I'm imagining, like, you get off Hogwarts Express, you pull out your broom, and you go fly up to Hogwarts, and, like, there's all this, like, fun activities going on to, like, get up there because because first years aren't allowed to have brooms,
Yeah.
So, like, the only way to get there would be the boat with Hagrid. But it's just like, oh, just jump in a carriage and just drive up there. It's like, oh, really? That's it?
Yeah.
There's no cool dragons taking them up to the top, or...
Hey, they're magical carriages.
I guess. It's not the same.
Being pulled by nothing.
I know, but still. I don't know. I was just like... I was confused by it. I just wanted more.
Yeah, it's... I guess I guess we don't get a good description of it, really, but I guess part of it in my mind is to, like, we've already said this is like a whole day affair for them.
Yeah.
Like, they leave the train at 11 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's dark by the time they get to school.
Right. They're tired.
And,
they just get there.
Then they just got to get up there. They still got to go through the sorting ceremony. I mean, it's a great big feast, so they very much enjoy that part of it.
Right.
But, and then after that, I'm sure it's probably time for bed. So
yeah. All right. I guess I'll forgive it.
Not a lot of fooling around.
Yeah. So we get up to school, and Dumbledore's explaining about the Dementors kind of watching over Hogwarts and telling people not to stray too far away from Hogwarts. He specifically mentions no using invisibility cloaks. I feel like that was directed at a couple people specifically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he addresses the entire group, but I mean,
I don't feel like many of
do,
the other students have invisibility cloaks in their
no,
trunks.
no. I'm pretty sure they don't. And so he mentions it, but you kind of wonder if he kind of just tries to blow it off casually. It's like, yeah, don't even try using those invisibility cloaks
Right.
that I know all you students there have stashed away. And it's
But
like,
Ron and
in
Harry knew
reality,
exactly who he was talking to.
exactly. Yeah, it was a serious warning for some people.
Yeah.
It's like it won't work. Don't try it.
Sure.
I'm not gonna point you out specifically, but don't try it.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no ability to reason or to listen to explanations or excuses. Like frightening creatures.
Yeah.
They don't mess around.
No. I mean, they really only know one thing.
Yes.
Is doom and despair.
Mm-hmm.
Guess that's two things, but
For those that deserve it.
yeah.
And lying to them, trying to be sneaky, is definitely deserving of their darkness, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, we're good.
Professor Snape. He's
Yes.
increasingly growing more irate about the situation with his job and his exact position at Hogwarts.
Sure.
He feels like now would be the time to make him Professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts. And he is not getting that job opportunity again. He seems very disgruntled about this, which is a reoccurring theme. With every new professor, Snape grows increasingly more upset about the whole thing. Deservingly so. Like, he's seen all these lunatics come in that just, completely fail at the job. And he's like, please just give me a chance. I can do this. I promise. You'll never have to hire another one again.
Yeah, you know that's the first thing he does at the end of every year is give Dumbledore, here's my updated resume.
Dumbledore's like, decline on the LinkedIn offer. So that's funny. I appreciate that acknowledgement. But the biggest news, Hagrid is now Professor Hagrid.
Yep.
Holy cow, I did not see that coming.
I thought that was the best thing when just last week, I believe you said there's no way they're like, hey, that would be Hagrid's dream job, but there's no way they're going to make him a teacher.
Oh my God.
You just wait. You just wait.
I was so happy, man. I was so happy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy for him. Like I was just absolutely in love with that big reveal. And then like Ron, I think it was Ron who said, who else would have assigned us a biting book? Like it's so true. Like he is the only one who would have been like that outlandish to require that reading. Because the funny part was I was trying to, when the kids are picking out their books and the biting books and everything like that, and the shopkeeper was like lamenting the fact that they had to go round up a couple books out of the cage and how horrible it was because they just got the shipment and they'd already been bitten so many times. The whole time in my head, I was trying to figure out, shouldn't this be like a yearly thing? Like they should be used to this by now, because if it's a textbook that's used at Hogwarts, this isn't abnormal, right? But they were treating it like it was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. So I couldn't put two and two together as to why they were making such a big deal about this, when in my head, this was a normal yearly thing.
Yeah. I mean, you would think so up to a point. I mean, if you think about the year before that, when they had to buy all of Lockhart's books.
Right.
That wasn't a normal thing.
No, but they also made it a point of it being a new thing because of Lockhart. Like they associated it with a specific professor right off the bat. Like this was associated with just a class. And while it was new for Ron and Harry and Hermione because they were now third years and they were able to take this class, they didn't associate it with a new professor in the same way they did with Lockhart. So I wasn't making that same connection.
Sure.
But
But
it
yeah,
all makes sense.
It all makes sense now.
And that's why
And
he
now
sent Harry the book ahead of time. Like, that was like his way of telling Harry, like, hey, I'm going to be your professor and this is going to be awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not allowed to tell you this yet, but here, have this book.
Yep.
I picked it out for you.
Yeah. So that was a very, very enjoyable end to chapter 5.
I thought you'd enjoy that.
It ended on a strong note, Matt. And then we got to chapter 6. Chapter 6 is called Talons and Tea Leaves. Fantastic name for a chapter.
Sure.
Some of her chapters are just like very plain, like the Dementor. Like, it's just like the name of a new character or a new thing that we're being introduced to.
Yeah.
But Talons and Tea Leaves, like, I like that. Like, there's some alliteration going on. There's some mystery involved. Like,
Yep.
the Dementor, I know, hey, we're probably going to learn what a Dementor is, whatever this thing is.
Yeah, I was going to say, going into it, you didn't know what a Dementor was.
Right.
But
You knew we were going to be introduced to it.
it's like, okay, yes, we will learn about this Dementor. But yes, Talons and Tea Leaves, it's like, well, I know what Talons are and I know what Tea Leaves are, but
What's that to do with anything?
Where are you taking me?
Taking us to chapter 6, do we have any new characters to talk about in this chapter?
We do have a few.
Okay.
We learned one more first name, Pansy Parkinson,
Mm-hmm.
Slytherin girl.
Mm-hmm.
We learned about Sir Cadogan. I hope you remember him because he's
the best part
quite
of the
the
chapter.
character.
Oh my
Quite
god.
the character.
I'm going to say this right now.
yeah.
You don't have to acknowledge it one way or the other, but I so badly want this to be in the movie. I need to see this in action. It's so good, Matt. So good.
So this is your denoming of this book?
As of right now, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. The way he was written and his lines, like,
Yeah.
everything about it was just hilarious. So
Yep.
yeah.
I can't tell you how many notes I just made about Sir Cadogan in this chapter.
Yeah. So
it's good.
Yeah.
We also met another professor, Sybil Trelawney.
Mm-hmm.
She's the divination teacher.
Mm-hmm.
We got a mention of Uncle Bilius. Is one of Ron's uncles. Nothing too important there. Just
He
was
died.
Yeah, he was telling a story that involved his uncle. Okay. And then we learned about, well, a couple of creatures, but one of them specifically named Buckbeak.
Buckbeak. Mm-hmm.
The hippogriff,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm absolutely certain we'll get into. But
It's about time, Matt.
yes.
Been waiting for this for 6 chapters now, if not more.
Well, where do you want to start?
How about we start with how bad Slytherin kids are? They're just all bullies. I dislike them very much so. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you claim to be from the Slytherin house, hey, who am I to argue with the Sorting Hat? And I really hope that you acknowledge your Slytherin placement, but that you rise above what the Slytherin house has come to, because there is nothing to like about any kids from this house at all. They're just all horrible people. Now, maybe it's, their peers. I mean, Draco Malfoy is probably just, the worst, and they feed off of him because he's kind of the leader of the pack. But like they just have like this bullying mentality amongst them that is just it just grates on you after a while,
I think it's partly has to do with how they're sorted. Because I think they all kind of have that bullying mentality built into them a little bit. Mm-hmm. But then, you mix that with guys like Draco who are going to take the lead and are very outright about that. And it becomes more or less a mob mentality.
Yeah.
Where they're all just, this is what we do. This is how we act. We enjoy it. We all enjoy it. So let's do it together. And they just end up picking on everybody.
It's that elitist mentality. They just think they're better than everybody else. You know, and I don't know if that comes from the wealth of their families, if that's, just, the long lineage of Slytherin. Like, I don't know where it necessarily comes from, if there's one thing or many different factors, but it's just we're better than everybody else. And then the other houses act like that, or, they just, no one acts like that except for them.
And that's why they were sorted there. And that's why they're all grouped together, because they've been sorted.
Yeah. I mean, going into this whole series, like, when I started to learn, what the different houses were, like, I knew Slytherin was, like, kind of represented, like, the bad apples of the bunch. But, like, Gryffindor always struck me as, like, the popular jocks at high school, who had that same mentality of we're better than everybody else type of thing.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen that from Gryffindor House yet.
Yeah, not so much.
Which is what I expected to see, but haven't. So, I'm still waiting for it. Like, I still feel like it might be buried in there somewhere, and that's why they're such big rivals with Slytherin. Whereas Hufflepuff just doesn't care what anybody else is doing, and Ravenclaw doesn't exist. So, I mean, there has to be something to it, but I don't know. Slytherin kids just bug me. And they're purposely written like that, but
absolutely, yeah.
Hagrid, preparing for his class since 5 a.m. He's so excited. He's so just jazzed to be teaching his first class. He's probably over preparing, if I know Hagrid, but
probably, yeah. I mean, he's been preparing for this for who knows how many years. Like, you've talked about already, like, Hagrid takes care of things. Like, he takes care of, in general, creatures. He enjoys having them basically as pets. So he's been doing this, I mean, since he was in school.
Yeah.
I think we talked about Aragog. Like, that was his pet.
Right. Which I'm kind of surprised he didn't have him, as part of the first lesson. Wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. So I just like the thought of just, like, Hagrid running around and, like, preparing things to teach his first class. Like, that's the most Hagrid thing possible,
Sure.
The little knight in the picture. We got to talk about him.
Sir Cadogan.
What a funny little thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I love this guy. Like, the first thing we see is just his little pony riding in.
The fat pony.
With no one on his back. It's like, wait a minute. Then this knight comes running along. Like, oh, okay. That's your horse there, eh?
He's a just a bumbling goofball. Like, it's just cracking me up.
I almost picture like a Looney Tunes sketch here.
Yeah, big time.
Like, I think there is kind of a Looney Tunes sketch with Daffy and Porky,
possibly,
where they're kind of dressed up like knights, and
sure,
like I think Porky even rides around on this fat little pony.
It's in the grand scheme of things, as of now, it's pretty unnecessary, but it builds the scene of just how wild Hogwarts is. Like, this is like what you're referring to earlier of, like, we've never had an explanation of pictures on the wall to this extent of, like, directing kids how to get to a class because they're lost. But it was just written so well that it was just so perfect.
Yeah, you learn a lot about the pictures, actually, like how they interact with the students, how the pictures can interact with each other. They can travel through these pictures.
Yep.
I was trying to think if you've ever seen that before.
No.
Like he's running through all these different pictures in the castle.
Right.
It's like
leading the way.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Like my favorite, well, one of my favorite kind of lines of his is just a quest.
Yeah.
It's like, I have a quest. Let's do this.
Something to do.
But then I have to say my favorite line is as he was running along, he knows what picture's coming next, and he's like, "All right, be stout of heart. The worst is yet to come." Oh boy,
I would literally read an entire book of just that kind of stuff that's going on in Hogwarts.
the tales of Sir Cadogan.
Not even just him, just like the random pitchers and how they interact with other pitchers and the ghosts and whoever is in the kitchen preparing the food. Like, I want to know all these gritty details about how Hogwarts operates on a day-to-day basis.
And I mean, I think part of it is now that we have like the bulk of the magical world set up for you in the first two books, like we can get into some more of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I also think that might be why some of the books get a little longer too. Is you get the Adventures of Sir Cadogan here. I think it was like a full like 2 or 3 pages.
Oh yeah.
Like you could have just had the kids find their class.
Yeah.
But no, like you included this 3-page bit with Sir Cadogan. So
and Ron's just shaking his head the whole time, like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't believe we're doing this. But like, I just love that kind of stuff. I don't know why. I'm just absolutely in love with the weird little details that come from the school like that.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Shortly after that, we got our word of the week, Matt.
Yeah.
Yep. This week, the word of the week is crinoline.
I believe it's crinoline.
Crinoline? Is that how it's pronounced?
I think so.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I had to look that up. I wasn't quite sure what was going on there.
Sure.
A stiffened or hooped petticoat worn to make a long skirt stand out. So think of like those wireframe skirts that go under women's dresses to exaggerate them, make them, look like bells, essentially.
Yes. You always wonder in the olden days. You watch some of these movies and stuff, and it's like, how do they get their dresses to stay out like that?
Think Disney princesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you said, Belle, and I'm like, I was actually picturing Belle.
Right.
Like,
Beauty and the Beast Belle.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was my word of the week, because I had to stop and look that one up, because I wasn't expecting to hear it here, especially, I mean, it made sense, once I got the definition of it, but, just kind of thrown in there, just haphazardly, like, it's not a common word people use in everyday, conversation. So.
Sure.
Yep. Divination.
Yep.
Let's talk about the divination class here. As we were getting the explanation as to what divination is,
okay,
the only thing I could think about, Matt, was Doctor Strange.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
But the explanation, like the Doctor Strange story, is basically like his ability to leave his physical body and go into like essentially like his mind palace, had like the power of the mind's eye, the ability to see things before they happen, like everything that's like being described as part of this divination class. I was like, well, that's pretty much what Doctor Strange was learning as he was becoming Doctor Strange. Like, this is super weird right now because I just watched that movie a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
So very similar theories and aspects as to like, and how mentally you can affect things in the real world type of thing. So,
okay.
Yeah, it just stuck out to me that, like, totally different franchises and whatnot, but like they're pulling from like the same train of thought here. So
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. I mean that's something you're going to run into, especially with Harry Potter here, is because she touches on so many different. I don't know if you want to call them arts or sciences or whatever you want to refer to them as, but different aspects of magic where a lot of other franchises might touch on one of them,
Right, right.
like focus on one thing that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she kind of says, no, this is the magical world. It all exists here, and we're going to learn about all of it.
Right. I mean, if you ask McGonagall, like, nobody should be learning about this stuff. But, I mean...
Yeah. Yeah, she thinks it's a joke, but...
Which is hilarious. So, the teacher, blanking on the name, Trelawney?
Yep.
Professor Trelawney?
Yep.
Also, Val mentioned that the actress that plays Professor Trelawney in the movie is the same that plays Nanny McPhee, which we just watched over the weekend. So that kind of messed with my head a little
possible.
bit. So the entire time we're reading this, I'm thinking about Nanny McPhee, which was super weird. Speaking of like different forms of magic and such. I have all kinds of crazy stuff going on inside my head, Matt. This is just, It's a mess sometimes. So Professor Trelawney, not quite sure what to make of this teacher here.
Yeah.
She's kind of out there.
Yeah, definitely, especially compared to the other teachers. She does not seem to fit in. And I mean, she even says she kind of purposely keeps away from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think she said to keep her mind's eye clear or whatever.
Right.
But yeah.
She's kind of like the hippie of the wizarding world. Like a holistic medication, like very like all natural.
Okay.
You know,
I could see that.
Just, the incense is burning. Like, the tea leaf, like, it's just so many different things. I'm like, this is the most hippie class like ever, and that's why she's so like different compared to all the other professors. But in her own fun and unique way. She did say one of our number will leave us forever. She did. Huh. Okay.
She made a whole mess of predictions.
Yeah, she did. But that one, like, specifically, it made everybody kind of perk up and wonder what was going on. We might have learned later from McGonagall that she kind of does this every year. Like, it's not that big of a deal like she made it seem.
Yep, it's her day one class.
Yeah.
It's like part of the syllabus,
Sure.
And now I will predict one of us will die.
Right. The unfortunate part is, though, Harry Potter just happens to be in this year's class.
It's true.
And he's kind of a magnet for possibly being killed at any point.
Yeah, you could say that.
So whereas other years, I'm sure students are just like, oh, God, that's a horrible thing. This year, it's like, oh, crap, Harry's gone. Like, this is it. He's 3 times... he's survived. No more. His luck has run out. This teacher who already knows that Neville's going to be breaking things all year is already predicting somebody's, going to leave us forever.
Yeah. I mean, to the 13-year-old mind, that's the other thing is like, when you start making these fairly generic predictions, mm-hmm. they're going to try to start piecing them together and make them fit.
Right.
And so they're going to start to see, oh, this one was true and this one was true and this one is true. So, oh, she was right.
Right.
And then keep expecting someone to die.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Neville's reputation probably precedes him a little bit. And,
sure.
It was probably a safe prediction of hers to say that he's probably going to break one of the teacups, and then
I mean,
him
who
thinking
knows?
about doing that probably created, a situation where he does break it.
Yes, he probably like tripped on the way into the classroom or something, and she saw it, and so it's like, okay, he's gonna be the one that's gonna break stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll predict that over there, and
so I don't know. I don't know what to believe quite yet. Like how much of this it is, like McGonagall seems to think that this is all just like a big sham. Like she doesn't even understand why this is a class, but there has to be a reason why she's still teaching it, why she's still a professor there. Sure. I have to think that, other than just Dumbledore just doesn't know how to get rid of her, tell her the unfortunate news. So,
well, I will say everyone has a pretty legitimate reason for believing what they believe.
Okay. Interesting. Now I wonder her quote about one of our number will leave us forever. Is she talking about that class specifically, or is she talking about someone at Hogwarts? Like, because if it's like more of a generalized statement, with the amount of professors that they go through for Defense Against the Dark Arts, like I feel like she's nailing that prediction on a yearly basis.
Well, I mean that's what I said. Like she leaves him all kind of generic.
Yeah.
She doesn't say you are like
right.
It's
which is how psychics make their money, like in the real world, in the Muggle world,
Yeah. They get very good at it.
Have you lost someone close to you? What? How did you know?
Because everybody knows someone that's died.
Yes. Yeah. It's, but I don't know. I'm curious to see where this goes. There's a reason for her being here. There's a reason for this class happening. But I think there's a lot of misconception about things regarding the class as well.
Yeah.
Someone who's very skeptical about all of this is Hermione.
It's true. Very true.
Round 1 between Hermione and Professor Trelawney.
Yeah.
This is fascinating to me. Hermione is kind of going into this year with a no BS attitude, and she's suddenly not afraid to call teachers out when she thinks that she's not being taught as adequately as she should be.
Yeah, well, she made a statement, and Ron kind of poked it at her. It's like, yeah, you won't be able to learn this from a book,
right?
And that's kind of Hermione's thing. It's like, and so she hears that, and it's like, well, fine then. Then this can't be real. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So I'm going to be paying close attention to this budding rivalry here between Hermione and Professor, because I don't know, it's going to be good. Trelawney did point out that she saw the Grim.
Yes.
An omen of death in Harry Potter's teacup amongst the tea leaves. This is not good. Not good at all. Especially considering the things that Harry has already seen up to this point. The shadowy creature in the alleyway. What was it? Was it in a book that he was?
It was when he was at the bookshop. He was looking at the other book covers.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And he saw one that had to do about I think it was called like Death Omens or something like that.
Right, and the keeper told him not to read it.
Well, yeah, it had a picture of the Grim on the cover, I think.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. This instantly made me start to wonder how much she does know or is aware of. Like, Harry saw something. Yep. She couldn't have known that he saw something because he hasn't really told anybody about it up until this point.
Yep.
So how did she see this omen of death in his teacup, which happened to be the same thing that he saw in an alleyway several weeks ago, So interesting. Curious, one would say.
Very curious.
Did you have anything else about Trelawney? Her classroom
Not so
seems
much.
really fun and uh, exotic and eccentric.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a different atmosphere, and I mean, different way of getting to it too.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like it's like, okay, there's a door. How do we get in? And oh, there's a ladder. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to finding more about her and what she's teaching. How is Hermione taking more than one class at a time? There's something going on here, and she's dancing around it, and Ron is confused. Harry just accepts it for Hermione being Hermione. But Ron's like, what are you, how is this even possible? She's allegedly taking 3 classes in a 9 o'clock time frame.
Yep.
But she won't explain what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, it could be anything. Like she said she worked out with McGonagall.
Mm-hmm. Worked what out?
I mean, she could be just taking classes outside of class, like independent study type of thing.
I don't know.
I mean, it was listed on her schedule because that's when the normal class takes it. But
I don't know. I think there's something magical going on here, Matt. Is Hermione able to be in multiple places at once? Did she get permission to do some sort of spell to, like, multiply herself? I don't know. So I don't know. She's being very coy about it, and Ron's onto her being coy. I'm just. It was mentioned several times in this chapter about her taking so many classes, and especially multiple classes at once. And then she even referenced about how, she learned so much more in this other class than she did in the divination class. And Ron's like, what are you talking about? You haven't even taken that class yet. This is only the first class of the day. And she's like, yeah, whatever. Again, like, I'm kind of like with Harry here, where it's just like, you should just chalk it up to Hermione being Hermione. Like, you can't stop this girl from learning because that's all she lives for.
Yep.
But I'm curious. I'm also a little bit leaning towards, Team Ron here, and I want to know what's going on here.
All right.
Why is she being so sneaky about it,
Yeah.
You think she'd just tell people, but we'll see. Hagrid's first day as teacher.
Yes.
His very first class.
Yep.
Jump right into the Monster Book of Monsters.
Well, of course, it's the textbook.
It's the textbook. Matt, you just have to stroke the book. Okay?
Yep.
That's all you gotta do.
Just stroke the spine.
Just stroke the spine, and it'll just lay flat and calm and quiet. How did the kids not know this, Matt?
Yeah.
Hagrid thought this was going to be a funny thing. Like, he was genuinely upset that the kids didn't understand, like, what he was going for with this.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too. Like, you kind of wonder why, like, the bookshop owner didn't know this,
right.
Or why the shipment didn't come with a note, or like
they could have avoided a lot of hassle.
I suppose the books probably ate the note or something.
I just love that Hagrid's is just so just depressed. Like, I mean, I don't love that he's depressed, but it's just funny to me that he's just like, oh, that's not funny to you? Like,
yeah, this has been my favorite book since I was 5.
I've been waiting all summer to do this on you guys. Hagrid.
Hey, he taught him something on their first day. There you go.
Yeah, he did. But then I immediately got super nervous about Hagrid teaching this class. Like, it was just all signs were pointing to something not going right.
Yeah.
And, Hagrid isn't well educated. We know this.
Yep.
He's been at Hogwarts forever, but he didn't graduate Hogwarts. He isn't as efficient in his magical abilities as other professors. This is his first time, like, teaching a class. Like, is he even qualified to teach? Like, we know he's qualified to take care of animals, but can he translate that into teaching young students how to take care of these magical creatures?
There's a big difference between having knowledge and being able to impart knowledge.
Yeah. So I just, all that, and then just the way the class started, I just started getting just super just nervous for Hagrid. I'm like, oh, I don't break his heart, please. Like, you've had so many worse teachers that have lasted an entire school year. Like, I don't even know what's about to happen, but I just know whatever it is, Lockhart did 1,000 times worse on a daily basis. So he lasted the entire year. I'm pretty sure Hagrid could get over whatever it is, but at the same time, like, I feel for Hagrid in ways that I don't for other professors, and I didn't want to see him sad and heartbroken. So I was very cautious going into, like, how this all played out.
Yeah.
But we finally got to meet the hippogriffs.
We do. Yeah, this is something you have now heard about before.
Yes.
From a couple of different places, I believe.
Lego Dimensions, Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you may have had, I think, I know you've seen pictures,
yes,
at least, of the movie adaptation of a hippogriff. But past that, you didn't really know what they were.
No.
So yeah, we get a nice description here. It's half horse, half eagle, which is an interesting combination. And yeah, Hagrid has a whole pack of them, whole herd of them.
Yeah, 12, I think he said.
Something like that.
Yeah. He also described him as being proud but easily offended.
Yep.
And that's just a funny description to me, because that's not how you would describe, like, animals,
No.
Like, no. That's how you describe, like, your friend or, somebody, an acquaintance of yours, but not like, I have this herd of animals and they are a proud animal, but they are easily offended, so don't hurt their feelings. It's like, what? Hold on. What are we talking about here?
Yep.
But they're magical creatures, so then you kind of just, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
You let it go. Yeah.
Try not to blink, Matt.
Try not to blink.
When approaching a hippogriff, asking for permission to pet it, don't blink. It freaks him out. What a weird, hippogriffs are weird creatures, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they're magical. They're not quite like everybody else.
Yeah. They kind of march to their own beat. So Harry tames Buckbeak.
Yep.
He gets to pet him. Hagrid kind of urges him to jump on back and fly around with him, which Harry wasn't exactly what Harry signed up for, as he pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, because, like, his last words of advice were like, yeah, and don't pull his feathers out because he won't like that. I'm like, and then Harry's like, wait, he's all feathers. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, there's not a saddle. There's not reins to hold on to.
No, there is nothing. You're riding bareback on this animal, and it's all feathers, and, like, you need to hold on to something.
Yeah, probably too big to wrap your arms around its neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a kind of a bad situation Hagrid threw Harry into, but he knew Harry could manage, and it got a little dicey there towards the end, but Harry landed safely, and everybody was cheering except Malfoy, of course, because that's Malfoy. Yeah. And then they all, got to split up, and they all got to try to tame the hippogriffs as well. Longbottom, good old Neville, just can't do anything right continuously. Probably best he didn't try to get onto a hippogriff, because knowing Neville, he would have been in the hospital wing ASAP. But Malfoy, he was able to tame old Buckbeak there, which was kind of a little disappointing that he was able to tame the same one that Harry did, you know?
But I mean, like I said, like, how was it actually described? Like that they just like if you weren't afraid of them, I guess, kind of was the thing.
Yeah, you have to be kind of confident when you go to them and show them that you are respectful and competent enough to touch them, I guess.
And that's something that Malfoy can definitely pull off.
Right.
So I mean that part makes sense.
Sure. But it's just like, oh, that was Harry's, you know, then like Malfoy comes in and he's like, I got this too. It's not that hard. If Harry could do it, I could easily do it, you know.
Yep.
But then he just he made a bad decision, Matt.
Absolutely, because he's Malfoy.
Yeah, he forgot that the hippogriffs are easily offended creatures. They are proud creatures, and didn't take too kindly to being called some names. And he retaliated on our poor dear Malfoy.
Right, poor Malfoy.
Sinking a
We're all
talon
feeling
into him.
sorry for him.
Just blood gushing everywhere. Like, I know it's going to be such tame adaptation in the movie, but like the book is just like there's just blood everywhere. Like he's just dripping blood all over the grass and his blood-stained robe. I'm like, oh my god, this is a bloodbath. In the movie, it's going to be like this little scratch. So
yeah,
I'm prepared for that this time, Matt.
Yeah, that's probably good that you're not expecting too much, but
yeah. So nice introduction to the hippogriffs. I'm assuming they're going to play, or at least one of them will, an important role in this story here. Just based on the fact that one's on the cover of the book.
Yeah, you're catching on to that.
Yeah. So we'll see. It is a gray one that's on the book. So is that Buckbeak? I'm assuming it is.
I mean, you would think that's why we get a name,
right? Of one as opposed to the other 11.
Yeah.
So I'm on to you, JK. I see what you're doing here. One last point I kind of had was over the course of 2.5 books now, I have been relatively hard on Hagrid on his consistent drinking.
Sure.
It kind of gets him into trouble sometimes. He makes bad decisions like bringing home dragon eggs and such. But this is like the first time I can't really argue with him pouring a few beverages for himself. He had a rough day. You know, he's taking it hard.
He did.
You know, he wasn't fired, but he thought he was going to be fired. You know, the kids wanted to go check on him, and he's pretty lit at that point. He had drank quite a bit, from what it sounds like. They tried to make him feel better, but they also were like, "Hey, you've probably had enough to drink so far." So, especially when he tried to hug Ron and Harry, and with the force of possibly breaking every bone in their body, because he's Hagrid and he doesn't know his own strength. So I sympathize with him here.
Sure.
He did mention flobber worms.
He did.
Now, I don't know if we're ever going to see what a flobber worm is or get to know a flobber worm, but I am fascinated by what these little things could be.
I don't think that's the impression you're supposed to get.
Oh, really? I mean, I know they're like basic, like Fantastic Beasts 101 here, but I'm just, I don't know. Like,
knowing you and the fact that you are fascinated by any creature that is out there in this world, I totally understand where you're coming from. But I mean that it's supposed to be like the most boring basic thing that Hagrid can think of.
Sure.
So yeah,
I don't know. We'll probably never see them, but I would be curious to see what these flobber worms are are made of. So,
Sure.
and then the chapter ends with Hagrid remembering that Harry's on lockdown and he's not supposed to be leaving the castle, even to go visit him across, the yard. So
Yes, the return of overprotective Hagrid.
yeah, but so everybody's kind of up to speed here. It sounds like on Harry's lockdown privileges. So
Yeah.
Interesting going forward. I don't know where that's going to lead, but I'm sure we'll continue the path next week, Matt, when we read chapter 7 and 8.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Muggle poll for this week.
Yeah, another Muggle poll this week. Inspired by all of our new classes and teachers that we've got this week. I wanted to know if you had the chance to sit in on one teacher's classes for the day, who would you choose?
I think it's pretty obvious who I would choose.
I think so too.
Yeah. Although I'm curious why you put professor in parentheses next to Hagrid's name.
Just because he has been made a teacher, but he's not educated as a teacher.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a job title, not one that's earned by being qualified as such.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just, it made me raise an eyebrow, Matt.
Sure.
What was your answer to this? Or what were the 4 options, I guess?
The 4 options were Professor Snape, Trelawney, McGonagall, or Hagrid.
I feel like you'd probably go McGonagall.
I think you're right.
I know you like Snape, and he's probably your favorite character, but I think you would enjoy McGonagall's class a little bit more.
Yes,
yeah.
I think I would too.
Okay.
I feel like she has a lot of interesting things to teach, and she's been around a while, and she knows how to control a class.
Yeah.
And what we saw from her this time, she transformed into a cat and back in front of the class.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so she knows how. I mean, she was disappointed that no one applauded, but
which I thought was so uncharacteristic of her.
Well, I mean, just because she knows that she can get the applause, like that's the first time it hasn't happened, and so I think at that point it wasn't necessarily that she was looking for the applause. That was a sign that something was going on.
I guess so.
Yeah, because I mean that's just something you do in front of a bunch of 13-year-olds. I'm sure I would have to guess most of them have never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, they
may have heard something about it, but yeah, most of them have probably never seen Animagus before.
Right. What the people out there say?
The people out there actually agreed with me.
Huh.
Got a whopping 40% for McGonagall.
Wow.
Close runner-up with 36 for Hagrid, though. Honestly, I did think a lot more people would have gone for Hagrid, but I can't argue with going with McGonagall. So,
yeah. Where'd our other new professor land in the rankings here?
Well, we had 23% for Snape, which unfortunately only leaves a measly 1% for Professor Trelawney.
Wow. Yikes.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to take that class, huh?
Guess everybody's on board with Hermione.
Yeah.
And Professor McGonagall.
Well, I mean,
I did want to read we had a couple of write-in answers or explanations here.
Okay.
That I did want to point out quick. We had Jess Carter said, if it was Alan Rickman Snape, I'd choose Snape in a heartbeat. He was always so sexy.
I've heard that a lot about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had Falcon. I believe this is actually the same one that emailed earlier. He says, honestly, he'd probably pick Charms, which was a choice I did not put on there. Charms with Professor Flitwick.
Okay.
Or whichever class the Centaur taught. Which we haven't gotten there yet. So we're just going to ignore that.
A Centaur teaches a class, Matt?
No, not at all.
Let me guess. Defense of the Dark Arts.
Good guess.
Yeah.
Super Sora has chosen Professor Oak.
Wrong type of professor.
There you go. Wrong franchise. Thank you.
I had to think about that one. I'm like, I remember Oak.
I was going to let you think about that for a little while.
Okay.
I knew you'd get there.
Sure.
James Holian at Infinity Museum. Good old James from the UK. Snape, as it's the strict teachers that tend to give you the most important lessons, even if you don't appreciate it at the time. I like his reasoning.
It's deep.
Malik, Hagrid. Why not? So many animals, so much love and care from a large, gentle person that you can trick secrets out of.
That's true.
Rhonda went with Professor Trelawney, one of our 1% there.
All right.
Because I love tea and incense.
There you go. That sounds like probably the most relaxing class you could take.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, from the description of the smell of the room, though, like, I don't know how long I could sit there.
Sure.
Like, I don't mind some incense.
Yeah.
But from that description, it just, I don't know if I could sit there. And finally, from Alex, he also would have gone with Charms, but since it isn't on here, Transfiguration seems like the next best choice.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you, everybody that responded to that and voted. Always fun seeing what the people out there think. So, yeah, fantastic. Also, can I throw a caveat to mine? Like, I would totally pick Hagrid sit in on one of his classes, especially if I don't have to sit in with fellow Slytherin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it would make the class immensely better. Let's do some emails, Matt.
Yeah, we still got a few emails to go through then.
All right.
Let's see here. We got an email from Rihanna.
Hi, Rihanna.
Quick note on our last episode of Butterbeer Banter. It says, I'm glad you guys enjoyed the movie. Entertainment-wise, I was looking forward to 3 big things this year. 1, Cursed Child. 2, the Gilmore Girls revival.
Oh, so good.
And 3, Fantastic Beasts. Fantastic Beasts was the only one that did not disappoint and was actually better than expected.
I mean, I can't speak about Cursed Child, but Gilmore Girls.
That's what she says.
Wow, controversial. We're going to have a discussion about that.
Next Butterbeer Banter. Okay.
I don't know how we can wrap that in, but
I'm not sure either. And then she left her favorite quote from chapter 6. You look in excellent health to me, Potter, so you'll excuse me if I don't let you off homework today. I assure that if you die, you don't need to hand it in. It's Professor McGonagall there.
Which is such her thing to say.
Yep. And she says her sass is the best.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the coming weeks as the plot thickens.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, Rihanna.
Absolutely, thank you.
Although
strongly, adamantly disagree about the Gilmore Girls revival being not up to par. Boy, that was a tearjerker, Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, poof. It was a roller coaster, emotional from the get-go. It was the ending could have gone multiple ways, Matt, and it ended the way it should have, thankfully, but it was close to just being too hard to watch.
I'll take your word for it. I've only seen the first one so far, so
Okay.
I have some catching up to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been rewatching the rest of the series first.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So, I've seen.
Oh,
I'm
so when you
pretty
say
sure
the
I've
first
seen-
one, you mean the first one of the four that they
Oh.
just put out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. I've seen pretty much the entire series because it came out when I was still growing up in my parents' house,
Mhm.
and it was one of those things that my mom and my sister, I have an older sister,
Mhm.
So my mom and my sister wanted to watch it,
Sure.
and we only had one TV in the house growing up, so if I wanted to watch TV on whatever night that was on,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we were watching.
Sure.
So I did end up seeing pretty much the entire series firsthand, and then so yeah, now I'm going through and rewatching them again since they're on Netflix, and yeah.
Oh god, we gotta talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get there.
Yeah.
Next email from Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
We've seen a lot from Lauren lately. She says, Josh and Matt, first, my students and I wanted to thank you so much for the set of books. The books have already been making the rounds through different students. I have attached a picture of my students and the thank you poster they created. I haven't sent you this picture yet,
No, yeah.
but I will be sure to do this.
Okay.
It's a nice picture of I don't know if this is her entire class or not, or if it's just part of her class, but yes, they have a nice poster they made for you,
Awesome.
for us, however you want to look at it.
Teamwork, Matt. This is a team effort.
Yes. But yeah, I will definitely get that to you at least, and if you feel you want to post it further, you're welcome to.
Sure.
She also goes on to say, I wanted to jump in on the conversation that you were having about wands in the last episode. Wand lore in this universe is fascinating to me, and J.K. Rowling has written several extra pieces about how wands work on Pottermore. There's also a quiz that includes finding your own personal wand and an explanation on what it means. My wand is a dogwood with dragon heartstring core, pliant flexibility, and at 12 and 3 inches. 12 and 3/4 inches.
Okay.
Wow.
I was like, well, wait a second.
I can read. Each of these characteristics describe something about my personality. I enjoyed the conversation y'all had about witches and wizards. How witches and wizards may end up getting more than one wand throughout their lives.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this makes sense because people can change, or as they get older, it is quite possible that the original wand that chose them loses its allegiance to them if a person changes to the point where where it asks the wand to perform tasks that it refuses.
AKA Slytherin.
At the same time, people probably need replacements if they break or lose their first wands, and Ollivander would probably go out of business if he was only selling to 11-year-olds who were heading to school for the first time.
That's true.
Yes. So, Josh, what did you think about Hagrid's Care of Magical Creatures class? Every time I read these chapters, I'm furious at Draco for messing up Hagrid's first class.
Yes.
Until that point in the lesson, it was going very well. Speaking as a teacher, it is infuriating when students don't listen to important instructions, but it crushes me that Hagrid seems to blame himself for the incident.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't know any better. Like, of course, like, that's Hagrid's personality, is to put all that weight on his shoulders. Like, he's not going to blame the students for it. Like, even if he knows, like, deep down, like, yeah, Malfoy is, a troublemaker and trying to get me in trouble, and this is all his fault. Like, he still takes responsibility because he's taking this job so seriously, because much in the same way that he's been like groundskeeper for Hogwarts, and he's had the responsibility of keeping care of the animals around Hogwarts. They're very important jobs to him, and he's super thankful to be able to do those jobs because he got expelled. Like, he shouldn't be working for Hogwarts still,
Yeah.
So he takes his responsibilities so seriously, and he desperately, when it comes down to it, he does not want to let Dumbledore down above all else. And his first day being so rough, like all I'm sure he's thinking about is just like, he just gave me this job to be this teacher and I ruined it, and he's going to be so disappointed in me. Like, he's not worried that he's going to be mad. He's not worried about Malfoy's dad, coming down on him and getting him in trouble. He's just, I think deep down, like, all he's worried about is disappointing somebody that he truly cares for. And that's heartbreaking. That's the heartbreaking part of it all.
Yeah. I think there's two reasons Hagrid gets to the point where he does. Is one, yeah, he's heard stories about Malfoy, but this is really like the first time he's really had to interact with him and deal with him firsthand.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not helping, because Malfoy is really as bad or even worse than the stories he's heard about him, I'm sure. Right. And then two.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, his class, like, I thought his class went well. Maybe he did overreach a little bit by going like right to the hippogriffs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that's Hagrid. Like, that, he's go big or go home.
Yeah, and like, from what we see, at least, the other Slytherins seemed to be doing fine, seemed to be behaving. Yeah. It was just Malfoy that was acting up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when they said they were all cheering and applauding, they said everybody but Malfoy.
Yep.
So he has to be the bad apple.
Yep. But yeah, the other thing I was going to point out is, I think Hagrid kind of fell into the pitfall a lot of first-time teachers do, is just kind of assuming that the kids are going to be listening and following and understanding what they're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. Like, because from a student's perspective, you go in and see these teachers that have been there for, 20, 30 years, whatever. And yeah, the classes listen to them. Mm-hmm. They have command of their classroom. And it's like, okay, that works. And so you get a new teacher and it's like, oh, okay, the kids are going to listen to me. I'm the teacher now.
Right.
But that's not how it works. Like, I have a lot of friends who are teachers, and like that's part of what you go to school for. You don't just go to school to learn what to teach the kids and how to teach it. You learn how to control a classroom. Mm-hmm. That is part of your education.
Yeah. And not just control it, but also present the information in a way that they are going to retain it,
Yeah.
And hold on to it for later use and moving forward in life, which is tough, like, any kid could like memorize stuff out of a textbook and get right answers on a test, multiple choice test or whatever. But like, if you're not able to apply what you're learning, then you're not really teaching anything.
Sure.
So also, like, I think Hagrid maybe kind of got unlucky with the Monster Book of Monsters. Like, if the kids knew how to stroke the book and open it and be able to read it, like, maybe they would have had some knowledge going into meeting the hippogriffs that would have been easier to approach them right off the bat.
It's very possible. I mean, the other thing, now that you bring up the book again, it's like we heard Hagrid was like super dejected after he heard that like no one could open the book. Mm-hmm. And like it kind of threw him off his game. Like, he had this whole lesson planned out, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, shoot! No one's read the book.
Right?
Oh, you didn't like that? Oh." And it's like, okay, we'll keep going here. But yeah.
I mean, think back to last book when Lockhart, gave the pop quiz about himself. Based on hoping that all the kids read all of his books before coming to school.
Yep.
Hermione seemed the only one to actually read the books ahead of time, and get like most, if not all, the answers correct, which totally put him in the best mood ever. Like, all it took was one student remembering and absorbing the stuff that he was hoping to teach, which unfortunately was just about himself. But like, that totally set the tone for that first day and going forward. Like, if Hagrid had anybody who was like, oh yeah, I read all about the hippogriffs. I opened the book, I was stroking the spine. I read all about these hippogriffs. Like, let's do it. Like, I know what's going on here. Like, he would have been over the moon excited to continue to teach that class. But because he didn't have just that one student that was able to connect with him immediately on that stuff. Like, Harry did it, but Harry kind of did it because he's friends with him. And, like, he wanted to kind of take the bullet that none of the other kids wanted to take because he trusted Hagrid, at least.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like Harry knew all about the hippogriffs and he was prepared and ready for it. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, she finishes up with a side note. This is my second favorite book in the series, but it's a very close second. Part of the reason it's my favorite is that the kids are growing up and developing more as characters. Now that they're teenagers, their interactions with each other and the adults around them are much more fun.
True.
Yep.
I wonder what her first favorite book is.
Yeah, doesn't mention it, but
probably
I'm
Goblet
sure.
of Fire for an amazing cover.
We'll find out eventually.
Book 6, Chapter 18.
The things you remember. Can't remember Parselmouth and Parseltongue, but
Nope.
Book 6, Chapter 18. Not
Matt,
gonna
in
forget
2
that
years,
one.
when we get to Book 6, Chapter 18, oh, it's going to be the best episode ever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I hope that lines up with like episode 100 or something like that. Yeah.
It'll be so far away that like you'll forget about it, and
Yep.
I'm just gonna like just store it away, and we'll secretly just come up to it, and oh, it's gonna be so fun.
All right.
Okay.
And our last email from the one and only Alex, Atari Alex.
Second half, huh?
Second half.
All right.
Next, I want to revisit the issue of Stan's accent for a moment. Like Matt said in the movie, his accent doesn't really bother me as much as it does in writing. Perhaps he's less intrusive in the film, or the actor may have toned down the accent for his role, or perhaps there's just something about that particular thick British accent that does not lend itself to written form. The fact remains that in the book, Stan has a cartoonishly exaggerated accent, and it will always irritate me. That's all.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
Sure.
Finally, as to your comments on the magical workings of the night bus, I'm okay with the explanation of a magical force field protecting the bus and causing objects to move out of the way, except for two things. First, that seems like exceptionally powerful magic for a form of public transportation. Granted, up to this point in the series, we have never gotten firm rules on what magic can and cannot do, but I would like to imagine that the feats which this bus is described to accomplish, if they are indeed enchantments placed on the bus rather than an innate relationship between the magical and natural world, would require complex spells that are beyond the skill level of Stan or Ernie. And okay, I'll stop right there. And I would say, yes, I would agree. They're beyond the abilities of Stan or Ernie, but I don't think it's like, I guess I was picturing someone higher up than them
Yes.
put the enchantments on this bus and they're just driving it.
Yeah.
Like
There's a night bus
enchantment-
depot somewhere where.
Yeah, the enchantments were put on the bus more or less for their protection and everybody else around them because they.
Well, Ernie's not the best driver. He needs some help.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think Stan or Ernie are responsible for this, but
No.
I still think it could be an enchantment put on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
His second argument, though, here is makes you think a little bit.
Okay.
Second, when describing the objects removing themselves from the path of the bus, J.K. Rowling specifically uses the word jump or jumping several times rather than pushing.
Sure.
This may be a small detail, but I had always imagined a very animated scene of a tree seeing the night bus barreling towards it, putting up its branches in a moment of panic and literally jumping out of the way to avoid the bus, then grumblingly returning to its spot.
Sure.
Typing it out like that makes the force field explanation sound a lot more logical, but her verb choice in my mind painted that picture, and now it's stuck there.
I like it. Very, very Looney Tunes-esque.
Yep.
Yeah.
On to chapter 5 and 6. They're a bit slow-paced, and we do get some more recap, but they're still fun overall. We get to explore some more of the castle, which is fun, and get some sassy Hermione, which is even more fun.
Mm-hmm.
We also find out that a wizard's idea of muggle clothes, or at least the ministry's idea, is a green velvet suit, which is way too Seinfeld-esque for me for this fantasy world.
Says you, Alex. That's what I'm wearing right now.
It says, on the train, we encounter Professor Lupin, which, thinking back now, minor spoiler, we never get an explanation why he travels to Hogwarts on the Hogwarts Express rather than any of the other various forms of travel depicted in the books. Also, why did he have such large quantities of chocolate with him? I had never thought about it before, but now it really bothers me.
I'm telling you, I think somebody knew that some things could happen on this train ride, and it was in protection of Harry.
Yeah, I guess he's probably right to the point that I don't know if it's ever, explicitly mentioned one way or the other, but I would have to say you're probably on the right track.
It seems like too much of a coincidence. I mean, we had, oh boy, what's his name? Fudge, Cornelius Fudge, meet Harry, escort him to stay at the Leaky Cauldron for several weeks. He
set it all up for him.
Yeah, he was 100% protected while at Leaky Cauldron and Diagon Alley. He was totally safe there. Nothing was going to happen to him. They got a special escort from there to the train station. And then there were going to be guards once they got to Hogwarts. The only gap when Harry was going to be unprotected and vulnerable to an attack would be on that train ride. So it's not completely out of the reason to think that, Lupin was sent on that train car, probably packing chocolate for a reason,
I mean, yeah, I think it's okay to assume that, he was sent there. He was the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, it's like if this year we knew the things we knew going into the year, they probably would have put Lockhart on the train.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not have turned out as well. But
it would not have turned out this well.
Yeah. But that would have been the thing that happened. And as for the chocolate, I mean, as we've seen, Lupin seems to be competent.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's been to some sort of staff meeting with Dumbledore, and he's like, yeah, okay, there's going to be Dementors around this year. I don't like it, but they're going to be here.
Right.
That's where he was headed. He was headed to Hogwarts, and there were Dementors there, and so why not be prepared?
Which I think the Dementors probably qualify as beings of the dark arts of some form or fashion,
Sure.
It just seemed, none of it seemed like a coincidence in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't specifically mentioned and pointed out in the writing, I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah. I think that's fair enough. If you, your first time through this, can kind of pick up on that, I think that's fair to say.
Yep.
And the last thing I want to bring up for these chapters is the former professor of care of magical creatures, Professor Kettleburn. I'm sure we'll never know for sure, but I would be willing to bet a large pile of galleons that J.K. Rowling was thinking of a name for this mutilated pedagogue. She had she had an accident when she was making her afternoon tea and found her inspiration there.
Yeah, probably.
Very, very, very possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Alex, as always.
Absolutely.
And thank you to everybody that emailed in. We always like getting your emails.
We do.
It adds more perspective to what we're talking about here, which is always a good thing, because you know what? I know you guys can only tolerate so much of my wackiness, so Matt definitely appreciates some sane reasonable opinions coming into the show. Don't you, Matt?
Yeah, they're not always reasonable.
Aside from Alex, most of them are
Yeah.
pretty reasonable and sane. So
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, it's nice because we obviously can't talk to everyone every week live on the show. So, I mean, this is our way of interacting with you, and that's what we want to do. We want to know that you're reading along with us. We want to know that you're listening. We want to know that you're enjoying it and coming up with wild theories of your own.
right,
It makes this a really fun show
definitely.
for me, at least, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too.
Definitely. Well, next week, Matt, we will be reading chapters 7 and chapters 8 of The Prisoner of Azkaban. I don't know what all that's going to entail. I don't know which direction we're going here. We're going to get some more chapters revolving around the professors. Are we going to start getting into Sirius Black again and what he's up to? Are we going to get the big reveal that Harry, I am your father? We'll find out. I doubt we'll get some big answers in the next 2 chapters,
I was
but
gonna say it might be a bit early for that.
yeah, maybe. She might throw us a curveball here. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Either way, I'm excited, and I hope you guys are out there as well. But until next week, you could find me personally on Twitter at The Noise with a Y. And be sure to follow the show on Twitter, where you could get the Muggle poll. You could get information about recordings and what we're reading and what we're up to, and just fun retweets that I see involving Harry Potter. Also, you could get a tweet or two about ridiculous, scary-looking spiders that look like sorting hats. So, all kinds of stuff going on in that Twitter account. And that is at Tales from GH, of course, on Twitter. And then I have to mention our Patreon page that we have set up. You could donate to us and help us cover the costs of running the show and doing giveaways and that kind of stuff. We are trying to give back to you guys, the community, as much as we possibly can. And we could do that with your assistance. Many of you have already signed up to help out with that, and we greatly appreciate that. I have one letter that might be going out to somebody coming up here soon.
Sounds about right.
Now that things are fully acquired for that, I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to take some pictures. It's going to be good times. So again, that's on Patreon, where you could help us out doing this show. That's patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. And Matt, where can people find you at?
You can find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt, or you can write the show for me personally, or anything you don't want Josh to see, at talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Matt, thank you for a fantastic show as always. It's always a pleasure recording with you. I hope everybody out there listening enjoyed it as well. You have 2 chapters to read by next week, folks. Get it done. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, to discuss more about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. But until then, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.